Good morning. Just a couple of quick updates for you today to echo what Chair Caroline Smith mentioned about the PSAP, or Emergency Communications Center Cyber Risk Awareness webinar. We've been working with our regional cybersecurity advisors in CISA. There are two to review the content, and I believe Swick Myers and several of the Swicks in Region 6 and 7 got to see an excerpt, half a dozen of the 80 some odd slide deck that we're working from. I think it's going to be an impressive, informative brief. And just to emphasize the importance of why we need to be aware, take a moment and Google or Bing PSAP ransomware attack and take a look at what's in the news in the last few days. If you're not aware, it does happen. And certainly in the news, we've heard about the state of Louisiana, that the governor declared a state of emergency after a ransomware attack began replicating out of their school districts. That involved bringing in a number of resources to begin to address it. So in this webinar, we touch on some of the most recent incidents without a great deal of attribution, but just to give you an idea that yes, it can happen to you. And I believe the one example, if you'll spend your time with Google or Bing, you'll find that an agency discovered that segmentation did not protect its CAD system. So what is your fallback position? How close is your pencil and paper? Because when CAD dies, that's what you got. That's part of what we talk about with having a plan and a backup plan and a backup to the backup plan. But I think it will be a useful webinar for you. Over the last couple of days, there's been a new variant of a cyber threat discovered. It's called a fileless threat, fileless piece of malware. In other words, it's not something that you have to click on a link or go get or run on your computer. It can be viewed in a web browser, something along that line. So that is a very high criticality, and CISA and FBI CyWatch are hard at work trying to figure out how to mitigate what the right framework is. More to come. I want to emphasize one thing from Swick Myers' report on the interoperability markers or interoperability measurements effort. The U.S. government, through our budgeting process, the Congress has mandated what is called GIPR, Government Performance Metrics. You all probably do something like this in your agency or at the state level. What does the investment bring us? And every year, the Congress wants to know, are we investing smartly? Not just DHS funds, but grant funds of all kinds. So the effort to build a metrics model is actually driven to support the SWIC and the Interoperability Governance Board to understand where you are. It's a series of 25 questions. It's been vetted with all 50 states and the territorial SWICs to try to find a comfort level with saying, are we here, here, or here? This is not a good, better, best. This is starting, engaged, or operational. And for not every state or territory will you be at that far right bar. That's not necessarily where you can be, dollar-wise or operationally, but it's to give you an idea where you may want to focus in your SCIP process or your planning process. It informs us for technical assistance where we have gaps and needs, and hopefully it will drive opportunities in future grant investments if we identify. For example, for several years we've talked about cybersecurity as a very real threat. It's reflected in every state's response plan. It's reflected in your THIRA. We see that as an emerging threat in all sectors, and that is an area that you'll see more opportunity for grant investment in the future. Final thing I want to reemphasize, as Chris mentioned, we've done a lot of work building your SCIP workshop. The actual in-person part of that is scheduled for September 10th and 11th, 2 half-day working elements. And from that, we will produce a draft document for the board review and hopefully report out on where we are on that on 12 September at your next meeting. Any questions for me?
Where are we holding that? We don't have a location nailed down just yet, but I was starting to gravitate towards DPS headquarters for the ease of access to the facility and use.
The last time we went to College Drake.
We went to Grinnell or Grandview, but the issue with Grandview will be that classes will be in session, so we may not have the space available to use that facility.
Okay.
We have a little time to identify. We've done the information gathering through the webinars, really good feedback and some very solid comments, but the venue we'll have to work out in the next few weeks. Thank you.